Good morning, good day, and good evening. Welcome to episode 139 of Tech Over Tea. I am, as always, Brody Robertson, and today we have DaBoom on, who is a small streamer, mostly Minecraft, and also a local South Australia boy. How are you doing?
Excellent. Absolutely. I had a great week this past week, so
Well, yeah, now that it's especially, the weather's clearing up a bit, it's not raining as much, we're actually starting to see some warm weather. It is kind of nice.
yes, it is.
How is the weather in your house? I noticed the bricks. So you're saying some weird stuff about your house. Like, how does your room get like really hot? Because mine's a bit of a mess right now.
Given that it's mostly glass, yeah, temperature does tend to get pretty hot sometimes. It's surprisingly not as bad as outside still, so
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I just have my window over here. I don't think you can see it with the camera you're seeing. I've got my window open over here though, but there's no fucking
Yeah.
breeze, so it doesn't matter anyway.
I have to close half my blinds and there's still too much light coming in from the thing. It's like, oh great. One of the reasons why I generally don't stream during the day because it's just like the lighting is just
Well, yeah, you stream like what? You usually start at like 11 o'clock, 10, 11 o'clock at night.
9, 10 o'clock,
Yeah.
sometimes 11. I I have to psych myself up beforehand. It's like, come on, gotta do this. Oh wait, hold on. What's this YouTube video? Just
Mm.
always getting distracted by something or other.
Yeah, that's why I like to
Just
set
happens
like
that.
hard times when I'm doing things. Like I'm gonna stream at this time every time because it is pretty easy to start procrastinating. Especially like I do the same thing with my videos because I don't have a set time for those. So they've been slowly creeping later in the day. Now I usually start around 11 a.m. But I still have time to get them done. So like at the end it's not the biggest deal.
Yep, that's pretty fair.
Well, you play a lot of Minecraft, and I have not. I I stopped playing Minecraft. What? Back at the end of the beta. I think the last update I
Oh,
played on. Yeah, so a long time at this point. The
yeah,
last
that's
update I.
you're an oldie.
Because I played all the way. I know the update I started on. It was 1.3.
Oh one,
It was the bed
one
update.
point,
It
yeah,
was the
one
update
point
that
three
added
underscore
beds
oh
and
one or whatever it
squids.
was. Oh yeah, that was a good update. I remember
Mm.
that one.
But
It's so weird to be in a community where most people had started after 1.0 release. It's
mm.
like, oh shit, you
Like
didn't know that?
like I've spoken to some people who like started after that point. They're like, "Wait, the Ender Dragon wasn't in the game at one point. Beds weren't in the game." Like, yeah, the game used to be really simple. Like a lot of
Mm,
the stuff that we see, and I occasionally check back in like with updates that are happening. A lot of the stuff that you see in like the vanilla game now is stuff that used to be mods. It's sort of bringing a lot of those features in.
yeah, it really is. I remember when they added pistons.
Mm.
That was a fun time. I was like, oh wait, I don't have to install the mod anymore.
I remember
Damn.
the drama about that because the addition to the game was basically the same thing, but they weren't crediting any of the mod creators at the time, even though they're like basically ripping the mod and
Yeah.
slightly different textures.
Well, there was a slight difference. They had the normal pistons and the sticky pistons, but the normal pistons in the mod, I seem to recall, used to throw the items.
Mm.
Now you have to use like a block to sit on top of that to make it throw the items. I
Right,
can't
right,
remember
right,
what it
right.
was. I think it was slime. No, it wasn't slime. I can't remember.
I think it was the same thing with the potion brewing as well. But I know that when they added the when they added the end and the credit scene and all that, I think they did start to credit some of those people,
Hmm.
if I recall correctly. But the last thing I saw from about Minecraft was there was like was it a competition or something about adding a new mob and they're gonna add like camels into the game?
They do that sort of stuff quite regularly. I
Mm.
honestly I don't really get into that sort of thing. I just sort of let it go and
Yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah.
Because I prefer to go, oh cool, they added something new, and
Mm.
and see it when they add it.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
it's cool that people get a say in it. Don't get me wrong, it's like incredible, but it's otherwise it's like, eh,
No,
see what happens and see what I can do with it.
yeah,
And I
like
get it.
you sort of see all of it before it's happened, and then by the time it's in the game, you're already like lost all of that hype. And no, I get it's
Yeah.
sort of the same with basically any game out there. Like you can get very into sort of the pre-release stuff, and then sometimes it's kind of disappointing when you actually see it in the game proper.
There's only been a few times where I've gone ahead and used the weekly snapshots instead of the normal ones, and that's when I've heard that they're adding a feature that I really wanted, or like that's been hyped up for so long. It's like I just want to get a hold of it and use it. And,
Yep.
Ooh, yeah, let's try this.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say something there. No, there was a time when I used to be like super into like there was a bunch of there probably still are now, but at the time there was a bunch of YouTubers who would like play every snapshot and go over every basic little change being added, every change that might be slightly exciting in any possible fashion. But like, that seems like a pretty good content grind to be honest. Like it's forever bringing you new stuff, and stuff's being removed and added. Like, it would bore me to death to do content like that, but I get it. It makes sense. And I get why it's popular.
Yeah. I used to be big in the modding scene as well when I was messing around with installing mods and stuff like that. The only reason I stopped was actually because for some reason my current internet service provider doesn't like it when I install mods. I don't know why. I can't connect to servers outside of my own network when I don't know. I need to figure that out and figure out what the heck's going on there. It's only that specific thing though. Like I uninstall all the mods and everything works fine. It's like, why is this happening? Like, so I used to be able to go, oh, let's have a 300 mod setup with with all that sort of stuff, connect to a service done on my local VPS or something like that, and then everything works fine. Then I switch to the NBN. I go to connect to this server. I'm like, why can't I connect? Why is it coming up with a netty error? It's just. It's really annoying.
I'm in the process of messing around with the NBN. So right now, I've got a fiber to the node connection. For anyone listening, NBN is National Broadband Network. It's our national internet connection thing. So right now I've got a fiber to the node, but I'm in one of the suburbs where they are like laying down fiber to the home. So I'm in that process of switching, but I've got a problem with this. So my housemate paid to get the box installed early, because you can do that if you want to. But then NBN didn't update the information on their side, so we have the box installed, but our ISP doesn't think the box is installed. So they were going to send someone out to install a box. And now we have to wait for them to work out what the hell they're doing. I want a fiber connection.
I got fiber to the street right now. It's not bad. I do remember they had to come into the house and run a new cable because our old copper connection was shot completely. Before we were using this, we were on Telstra cable, and it was just like, this is horrible, but it works.
Yep. What do you actually got as a connection right now? What is your connection speed right now?
I believe we got the 100/20 package. So
we've got the 50 by whatever it is right now.
It's
I don't know,
probably 50/20.
Yeah, something like that. 100 is 140, I believe. But you might only get 20 because of peak hours and nonsense.
Yeah, I don't remember. I'd have to relook that up.
But when we upgrade to the fiber connection, we're gonna get 250 by whatever it is. I'm very happy for the 250 connection. It's only gonna be like $100 a month between two people. It's not that expensive. I did notice there's a couple of places now that are offering gigabit, and I would love that. It would be nice.
That would be epic.
It is very, very suburb dependent though. So
it's very hard to find. I think I remember finding a service provider that laid fiber directly to your house for you, and it wasn't associated with NBN. And I think they only did an area in New South Wales or something like that. I'm like, damn. Yeah, that sucks.
I was actually kind of surprised to find out there are a couple of little companies like that. I think there might be a place in Broadmeadows or something that has Like, there's just weird random places where you can get those services. I don't understand, like, the rhyme or reason behind why they go with certain places, but I'm sure there's something there.
Money. That's probably it. It's just where the money is.
Well, yeah, but, like, I don't think Broadmeadow is a big money place.
Yeah, true, but I know you can you can do something where you send a message to them and ask, hey, if I pay this much, will you hurry along my connection or something like that? So
Well,
maybe that area's done that a lot and they've just decided, let's service that area because clearly they want good internet, so and they're willing to pay for it. So
well, you can do that with the NBN as well.
yeah, that's what I mean.
But because they took so long to deal with it, they actually they've still got the box installed. They just gave us a refund though. So yeah, we're just waiting on like whatever they're gonna do. They're supposed to be, getting back to them yesterday. Nothing's happened so far, so sort of is what it is.
It's the government. It's just
yeah. I don't know what's worse to deal with, Telstra or NBN. They're kind of just as bad as each other.
Well, one used to be the government and the other one currently is, so
yeah. Well,
it's like they both have come from that culture.
I think either way, it's better than the connections I was dealing with as a kid. Like my house was an old housing trust house that I grew up in, so it was an older house anyway.
Ooh.
So the copper to the house was also ancient and completely shot. I think the connection I had when I was growing up was 5x1 at most.
Yeah,
on a good day.
That seems about right. I think I had that as well. It was ADSL 2, but it was basically ADSL 1.
Yep.
And then before that, it was just straight dial-up.
I didn't think I ever had a home dial-up connection. I think my first connection was ADSL 2, because I grew up in rural Queensland, and until I was in like grade 4. My parents didn't know what the internet was. They didn't want the internet, so we just didn't have the internet. But when we came to SA, that's when we got the connection. That would have been around... Yeah, it would have been around when YouTube started. So like 2006-ish time.
My parents took a long time to switch off of ADSL. We were sitting in it, like, I remember when Netflix came out on, like, full-on download Netflix, Mum and Dad got a full subscription to that. And it was like, I'm trying to download a game, and then they're like, are you downloading something? Because they're trying to watch a movie or something like that. Because there was only ever enough bandwidth for one thing to happen at any one time. So it was just like... That's yelling bullshit over the room.
The issue that I had is my sister used to be like a pretty big gamer. Honestly, more than I was at the time. And you know how you open Steam and it starts auto-downloading updates? She had Steam set to auto-open when she booted her system. So it would usually run through updates for like multiple hours. Because it's a couple gig update and you have like 5 down. It's going to take a long time to happen.
Yeah.
So half the day, it was basically unusable. I had to go to him like, hey, are you downloading anything on Steam? It's like, oh, yeah.
I remember my parents also had a strict rule where you couldn't run your computers overnight. So it was like, okay, I've got to download this 60 gigabyte game on an ADSL connection. How far do we want to, how do we do this? Luckily, Steam could pause downloads, otherwise I would have been screwed, but it was like, I can't wait a whole week to get the whole thing done.
Yep. Do you remember how much of a data cap you had back then? Because I started on a 100 gig cap. That's when I first got ADSL 2.
Oh, I can't remember. It was a reasonable enough cap that it was relatively okay. The download speed was the real problem.
Yeah.
We went over it.
Well, initially, yeah, that was the same for me. When it became an issue with the cap that we had, it was when I started watching anime. Because that's when I was streaming stuff, and we'd get to like 200, 300 gig, like 20 days into the month, and we had like I think it was a 200 gig cap at the time. So we got to that point, and it's like, well, connection doesn't work anymore. You get like 64K down. Have fun with that.
Yes, have fun going back to the dark ages.
Mhm.
Yes.
And then when I got my when we got our first unlimited connection, back when this was a thing that would happen, you had unlimited asterisk when it was like it's unlimited, but you know, you get 200 gig that's at full speed. We just don't cut the connection off after that.
It's unlimited in massive quotes with a thousand asterisks and a
Mhm.
thousand pitfalls as to why it's not actually unlimited.
As much as I don't like the NBN, and it's got a lot of issues, and it had a lot of issues early on, it's better than what we had before.
By absolute miles. I still get people on stream that are surprised that I'm not having any issues when other people are. It's like,
Mhm.
wait, you're in Australia though.
Mhm.
Why are you not having issues? Isn't Aussie internet meant to be bad? It's like, well, it was.
Well, it's we are where like America was
Hmm.
10, 15 years ago. So
Yeah.
it's not like it's not unusable, but it's not great. Like 50
Hmm.
down is good enough. You can live perfectly fine on 50 down. Most people aren't watching 4K videos. That's when stuff starts to become a problem. If you're a family and you have 50 down and you're watching Netflix and stuff, it's good enough. I would like more, but it's good enough.
Yeah.
Hmm. So you run Arch Linux.
Yes, I do.
How did you get yourself into Linux? Like, did you start with Arch? Did you watch a Luke Smith video? How did this happen?
Nah. I started Linux well before Arch was even a thing, I think. I remember when I was in really young,
Mm,
my church pastor used to give me his old PC magazines. And
okay.
every now and then they would have a live CD of a distro or something like that. So it was like PC user, and all those sorts of things.
Mhm.
And I seem to remember one specifically was KDE 4.0,
Okay.
which was very, very old. And I don't think I ever actually installed it,
Mhm.
but I would occasionally boot it up just to mess with it,
Mhm.
just in the live CD. Like it was only really every like 5-10 minutes, like sessions,
Yep.
because I didn't really know what to do with it at the time. And then it was sort of a spiral into different things.
Mhm.
So I didn't really fully get into any amount of Linux in any practical sense until high school,
Mhm.
when they had a fun little thing where they had not bothered to lock down the bootloaders.
Uh-huh.
So I installed a Puppy Linux USB stick, and went around, sat down at a computer, plugged it into the thing, and sat there playing Mario for the whole thing using MuPen 64 Plus. Just
Mhm.
sitting there lunchtimes, just doing that. That's generally what I would do, and that was a fun time. It was always fun. And then I'd have wine so I could play the executable Flash games that you'd find, because
Ah,
you
yeah.
get those two variants where they're standard Swift files and Flash like full on Flash games with the Flash player embedded into it.
Mhm.
And it's like, I still want to play those, but I can't because they lock down the system, so you can't run executables, but you can run Flash files. So it was like, all right, I have this Puppy Linux thing. Let's just plug it in and use Wine.
Mhm.
Way back when. That was my first use of Wine. Um, Trying to get anything more than that working was way more of a pain than I even knew, so I didn't even bother with it.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't run Linux full time until towards the end of my uni. No, not the end of my uni, the end of my high school
Mhm.
situation, when it was, I believe it was year 11 and 12. We had these laptops that were given out to us year 10. I think
Ah.
because I was in the ITT courses, I was one of the first to get that thing.
Oh, that's
It was a
cool.
scheme where you pay a certain amount of money every year for over the course of 3 years, and they essentially give you a laptop with a
I had the
3 year
exact same
license to all the
thing.
software.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was a government scheme, I think, that they
Mhm.
scrapped not long after they created. But So if you got into it, you're really lucky.
Mm-hmm.
And that laptop was really good. It was a Acer 3830T with a 120 gig SSD and a 4 gigs of RAM.
What year was this?
Pretty reasonable. That was, let's see, it would have been year 10 when I got that. Let's see, I'm trying to think.
gotta
It's been
work
so
out the
long.
years.
It's been so long. I don't have that laptop anymore.
Mm.
But it was not bad. i5-2450M, I think it was. It
Okay,
wasn't the
okay.
graphics card variant, but it was pretty reasonable for the time.
Mm-hmm.
And after a while, I got really pissed off with Windows for some reason, or something like that. Ended up installing Ubuntu on it and used that for the rest of the year, essentially, until I think I was dual booting at the time on. And because I got really in with the IT guys at the school, so I found myself able to request, hey, I need to repair this little part of the laptop because there was an accidental warranty on it and stuff like that. While you're repairing it, you mind if you get the guy to upgrade the SSD for me with this SSD? He gave him a Samsung SSD.
Yo.
And so next minute I had a 250 gig SSD. And back then it was quite expensive. It was like $250 for it.
Oh, wow.
It was not cheap. And then they upgraded the RAM as well. So it was like, now I got 8 gigs of RAM, 250 gig SSD. The thing actually runs really well. And it was really nice to have a dual booting set up with that. And I would sit there and just mess around all the time. It was Steam was in its early days. There were some native Linux things. Proton wasn't really that much of a thing. So, it was still painful to get certain things working. But for what I did, it was fine. I spent most of my time playing Terraria anyway.
I miss the those early days of school laptops, school IT, because they sort of caught on to how terrible their systems were as my cohort was going through it. When I joined my school in grade 8, the admin password that would unlock the internet connection, that would disconnect, because they had these like locks for couldn't launch programs. It was admin. The admin password was admin, and they thought no one would guess it.
It's my IT guys were a lot more into it than they're.
Well, when they changed it to someone's date of birth, so these guys weren't the smartest.
Oh no, that's pretty sad. No, the biggest contender that our IT guys had to worry about was the fact that a lot of teachers did not understand how to keep their passwords a secret.
That also happened, yes.
I think I remember one point I was in a class standing behind a teacher. He logged in on his computer and I saw him type his password out like finger poking, like bonk, 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 bonk. I'm like, I now know your password. Cool, I can watch YouTube whenever I want without having to pay. Of course, there was a lot more other things you could do when they eventually changed the password, because once word got to the IT guys that was the thing, that had happened and that password had gotten out, it was now you have to change your password.
Yeah.
Imagine how frustrating the teachers would have been, just because, oh, you have to change your password now, it got out. Like, what? How did that happen?
They stuck a camera behind you. Yes, that's what happened.
In the form of 2 eyes and a nose. And yeah, that was always an entertaining situation to see. And then what was it? What else was there? When we had the laptops initially, they were using the original images for the whole school, the same images for the whole school. So that's what they gave us. Right. So they were completely locked down images, and you couldn't do anything with them. But because they were bought laptops that students were purchasing, people would just go, "Oh, we're paying for this anyway. Let's just mess with it," and they couldn't really say anything. Eventually, they released a specific image for those laptops where it was like, now you have admin rights.
Yeah.
And it was a lot easier to deal with. You didn't have to worry about logging in and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
But most of the laptops had gone out by that point, and a lot of people could not be bothered to go in and get their systems re-imaged.
Yep.
And they would just grab one of those NT password USB sticks or something like that, or like, one of those recovery USB sticks, unlock the local admin password that's on every Windows computer thing, and that's what they would do. It was just, yep, now we've got access, we're fine. So I knew so many people that were running that local admin account as their main account because of that. It was like, this is really bad. Because that local admin account, I don't think it ever had, you could ever enable UAC for it or anything like that, because it was an administrator account. Like, it was like really poor security. I'm just like, that's probably not great. When I ended up doing the same thing for my laptop as well, and I think I remember I got the local admin account and created myself a sub account for it, but then I installed Linux on it anyway, so I was like,
It didn't matter in the first place.
no, it didn't matter in the end anyway.
For my school, it was a little bit harder because so you had those Windows devices. We didn't. We had Macs. So when I started school, you know the old white shell Mac?
Oh, yeah, like the G4s and the those sorts of...
The 2012... It's just like the white clamshell 2012 Mac.
They're the all aluminum
2010,
ones, or
whatever year it was.
Plastic ones? I can't remember.
Yeah, it was like all plastic body. It was
okay, yeah,
gross.
In the G4s,
but didn't stop us, because turns out there is a lot of older games that were made to run perfectly fine on those Macs. So we would play a lot of games built on the built on top of the Quake engine. Turns out they all run on Macs. So
yeah, because people created ports for it and all that sort of stuff. It's like, just move the pack files over and everything works.
So we're playing things like Urban Terror, Assault Cube, things like this. Turns out also Halo 1 has a Mac version. So we also played Halo 1 and COD 4. Turns out COD 5 also has a Mac version.
That reminds me of the library Halo tournaments people used to randomly put on the PCs there.
Yep.
It was like one guy keeping their eye out for the teacher to make sure the teacher, because you're not supposed to play those games. It's like, oh, quick, the teacher's coming. Alt-tab.
Yeah, it got...
And then then that little piece of software, hideme.exe, you remember that one?
Hideme.exe.
Everyone had that. It was... I think it shows up as false positives now on every single antivirus under the sun, but back then it was basically the quintessential thing that people used to play games during class. Because essentially what it did was it hid the icon from the taskbar, so it looked like it wasn't even running.
Oh!
You just use a hotkey.
Well, you could just change the icon if you wanted to do that. That would be a much easier way to do it.
Well, it hid the because it was running still. It hid the whole window, the whole icon. Basically left no trace that the thing was running at all.
Oh, so you just hotkey it and yeah, right, okay.
Yeah. And a lot of people used that at the time. I had a different one. I think I found a virtual desktops app made by sysinternals that essentially did the same thing, but it was virtual desktops, so you could switch desktops and all that. And I think I remember running that for at least a few months.
Windows didn't have virtual desktops back then, did it?
It had partial capability to do it. It was just never implemented.
Okay. What was that? Windows 7 then?
That would have been Windows 7. I think it worked with Windows XP as well. I'm not sure.
I know XP definitely didn't have any virtual desktops.
Just search sysinternals desktops. It's still a thing. You can still download it and use it. I think it still works with Windows 10.
Sysinternals.
It was something I used quite a lot along with the sysinternal suite back when I was running Windows on everything, and it was pretty useful. I really remember that sort of stuff.
Wait, did this project get bought by Microsoft?
Sysinternals is a Microsoft thing.
Oh, right. Okay, that makes sense.
It's basically like an external, like internal developers could upload their own projects to it.
Oh.
Stuff like that. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. I could be wrong. Someone in the comments can correct me, I'm sure.
Right. Okay, so this was for Windows 7, 8, 8.1, and 10.
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually really cool. I didn't know about that.
But it was relatively janky, I will admit. There was some issues with it that were frustrating to deal with because, like I said, the functionality was built into the Windows system of Microsoft's operating system. So, but it wasn't fully implemented. There was a bunch
Hmm.
missing that had to be compensated for and stuff like that. So it worked, but it wasn't great.
Mm.
It wasn't like what they have now, which is essentially the same thing that Linux has always had.
Because Windows didn't like have like proper user-facing virtual desktops until 8, or was it 10?
I can't,
I know 10 has them. 10 definitely has them. I
yeah,
can't
10.
I can't recall if 8
I think that might
had
have been
them.
10. No. Ah, I can't remember.
I'm just, why don't I just look up Windows 8 virtual desktop, and if it tells me anything, then that'll mean it
That's
exists.
the easiest way to do things.
Uh okay, no, it's telling you to download desktops. Okay, so 10 was the first one that probably
Yeah.
had them then.
Mm.
Man, virtual
But they had
I don't know how you use
that
a
sort of
computer
stuff
before
in here.
virtual desktops. They're so nice.
Oh, it is. I got Devil's Pie running on my system, so I can, because I'm running XFCE, and I've
Mhm.
been running that since pretty much the time I switched from Manjaro to Arch.
Mhm.
And Devil's Pie is really useful because I think it's a Lua based system, and I can use it to send certain applications to and lock them to certain desktops. And I
Oh,
have it
that's
so
cool.
if anything sits on my right monitor, I can lock it to that right monitor. So
Mhm.
no matter which desktop I've switched to, it's always on that desktop.
Oh, that's
It's
cool.
always on that monitor. So I've done that sort of stuff. It's temporarily disabled at this point in time because different layouts require different things. Sometimes I'm going to disable it.
Why is XFCE the desktop you go with? I don't hear
I
many
don't
people running
know.
it now.
It's simple and easy, and I have a tendency to stick with something that I like when
That's
it
fair.
works. So it's just what happened, and thing. Eventually, I'll switch. Once I get a AMD thing, I might go to Sway or thing. I was running i3 as the window manager for XFCE at one
Mm,
point.
mm.
That was pretty good. And then on my laptop before that blew up, um, I was running Awesome Window Manager
Ooh.
on that one, which
So you do
that
like
was I
tiling
actually really
then?
like that. I do like tiling. I think I prefer something like Awesome where you can choose whether you want to tile something or not.
Right, right.
Something like i3 seems a little too restrictive, and a lot of apps aren't designed for things like that. And as a result,
i3 you can float windows. It's just yep.
yeah, yeah, but it's not as easy as
Yeah.
things because some apps, when you launch them, they expect you to be floating,
Yep.
so
Okay.
they program with things and that in mind. And as a result, it just becomes a glitchy mess.
Right, right. Right, with Awesome you can set a desktop you want everything on this you want this entire desktop to your floating desktop.
Yeah.
Mm,
Another thing I struggle with is hotkeys. Memorizing that many hotkeys
that's
is
fair.
just like, ugh. It's like dying. I'm like, I've memorized these ones,
Mhm.
and I know that there are about 30 more that I haven't memorized,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and I can't be bothered. It's easier to set your own, but at the same time, it's like, then you've got to work out what works for you. And
That's fair.
once you set more than like 10, you're getting into forgetful territory again.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of hotkeys that I half the time forget about. Like certain things are easy. My keyboard has like dedicated media keys, for example, so those are easy enough to
Mm.
deal with. And like app launcher and app closing, fine. But like, yeah, half the time I forget my keys. It's sort of just muscle memory. I'm like, how do I open my browser again? What was the key combination?
Mm.
And my hands just go to where it needs to be. But don't
Yeah.
ask me what I'm actually using for half the stuff.
Yeah, I got media keys here as well, but I use them
Mm.
all the time. The only thing I don't really use very often is the volume slider because I've got the MIDI pad here that has like
MIDI pad?
a dozen different sliders and all that sort of stuff. So I've got a Kai MIDI mix MIDI mixing desk that I use for all my mixing stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
It's it's completely MIDI, so it's compatible with Linux,
Mhm.
easy. The only issue is a lot of them do have third-party configuration softwares. This one's not so bad.
Mhm.
Before this, I had a Korg Nano Control 2,
Mhm.
which was great. The only problem is it doesn't really have dust filters on the sliders. And as a result, it wears out quicker.
Mm.
And the one, I think I remember buying the Korg Nano Control from Cashies for about half the cost of the original one, even though it was only $100, the main one. But that was good. But the software, what you had to run it in Wine so you can configure it so that, because with that one it was very configurable. You could set certain buttons to momentary and certain buttons to not, and do whatever you wanted and however you wanted it. But it was sort of a mess. This one is a mess in a completely different way. I'll admit. This one, because there's not as much configuration, in order to get things working, I have to use a bunch more MIDI control change plugins and all sorts of other things in the patch bay that I run for it.
That sounds like a lot of work just to work with that.
Yeah. I can't remember if I've tweeted the image of my patch bay as it currently stands. I'm pretty sure I have at one point. It might be way down in the tweet thing, but yeah, it was kind of crazy
because
to set up.
The only thing that I have to deal with is the microphone and then my Yamaha mixing board. But this doesn't have anything internally on Linux I have to deal with. Everything's done directly on the hardware, so there's no messing around with patch bay nonsense. But
yeah,
I can get why. I can see why that might be a little bit of a problem.
Well, the thing I can do about this is I can just set buttons to do whatever I want them to do. So, you got mute buttons, and there's the rec arm button, because this thing's meant for recording, like voiceover recording, stuff like that.
Yep.
And but obviously DJs and stuff like that use it as well. I can just set those rec arm buttons to whatever I want. So I've got I'm not going to push them now because they will activate. A bunch of patch bay plugins for reverb and voice modulation and pitch change and stuff like that are all programmed into the desk as well. Because I'm running everything through Kala.
Yep.
For all that sort of stuff, and then I just use QPW graph to patch everything together. Used to use, back when I was using Jack, I used to use QJack CTL for all that sort of stuff, but it's I don't need that now. No need to. Pipewire is good enough to work.
Oh, you're on Pipewire then?
Yeah. I switched a little while back.
I kind of, maybe I just buy one of these for the memes and just mess around with it, because this seems really cool, to be honest.
Yeah. I have wanted to get another one, one of those MIDI pad style ones. For soundboard and stuff like that, because there's a bunch of LV2 plugins and stuff like that you can use to play WAV files. And you can hook them up based on what note they are.
Yeah.
So you can buy I think at the church we've got it's another Akai brand thing called an APC Mini. And that thing is just buttons. It's just 100% buttons. It's got sliders as well. It's the same sliders actually. But it's also just buttons, and you can just program them to do what you want, how you want it, and it just works. Right now, I've just got that programmed into my Stream Pi. So I have a Raspberry Pi that runs Stream Deck software.
Oh wow,
well. That's really useful. So.
That's honestly really cool. I've not heard of anyone using a setup like that to deal with their audio.
Yeah,
because
it sort of grew organically. Quite things just I want to be able to control stuff so I don't have to reach over and change to tab change workspaces so I can patch something through or something like that. Now it's very rare I need to do that because I have everything auto patching quite simply.
So with your MIDI mix thing, you can control. Can you control your audio levels in Linux?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I use for that sort of stuff to link the sliders to thing. I have a little piece of software called Jack Mixer, which is obviously a Jack based piece of software, but it works with Pipewire as well.
Yep.
Pipewire Jack. But essentially that can link in and use MIDI for sliders and stuff like that.
Oh.
It's essentially a virtual mixing desk that you can link to a physical MIDI mixing desk.
Huh. Wow, there's a lot of stuff in the audio. Like, the audio side is one of those areas that I am basically, like, the biggest noob at with Linux. I have no idea what I'm doing. The extent of my audio, like, in software on Linux, is using QPW graph to take audio from my my capture card that I use for my console, and then route it back into my speaker so I can hear it in my headphones, and then also route it into OBS. That is all I do. That like, but I've heard from Umpha some cool stuff, and now I'm hearing this from you. That makes me want to mess around with some stuff. That's so cool.
I just messed around with a lot of stuff and tried to find something that works. There was a bunch of iterations when I was trying to work this stuff up. One issue I still have is because I'm using for basic volume control when I'm desperate to change something or make sure things are on the right syncs and stuff. I still use Pavu control, but whenever you start Pavu control and then look at the QPW graph, it looks insane. It really looks completely crazy. You've got to close that before you do anything. It's like, what is this? Why is it linking to literally everything?
I want to try that out now.
Because I just got a basic Behringer audio interface, connecting this mic up to it because it's an XLR mic.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty standard fare, relatively cheap.
Well, besides the Behringer and the mic, that's the normal stuff. Like, I hear that a lot from a lot of stuff, but I don't hear the MIDI side from a lot of stuff. Like that's a new one for me. Because I like my mixer board. The only issue it has is it doesn't have a mute button. So if I want to mute myself, I have to grab my audio knob.
Yeah, and just twist it.
Just twist it till it's empty.
Yeah, having a mute button is work. I got the idea to do this, honestly, from the Go XLR. I went, all right, so the Go XLR is not compatible with Linux. But then I looked at it, and I looked at scripts that, like when Linus Tech Tips released that month-long Linux thing, or whatever it was. I saw him struggle with the Go XLR and stuff like that and find a script that made it work. And I realized that's just using Jack to link everything up. It's legitimately just installing Jack using patch commands to patch everything together and make it work. The only thing that the desk seemed to do was the bleep button, which I still really want to set up, and I've got to work out how to get that working.
I think, well, obviously, easiest way you could do that is have like a if you don't want to be a bleep, you could temporarily mute the mic. So you have a button there that, as long as you have that toggled, then it will just mute it. That could do that, obviously. I'm sure there's a way with Python or something you can just generate white noise and do basically the same thing.
Yeah, it's just trying to get it to interface, because with the way I've got things set up, I want it to essentially switch off, like, so when the bleep's going, it's not taking in audio and vice versa. So it's patching that so it works with just a single button is a lot more difficult than you'd expect. Especially given the way I have to have things set up with this mixing desk, because it's not meant for streaming. It's meant for like DJ artists and like full on like Ableton setups and whatever all that sort of stuff is. It's sort of difficult to make it do what you want it to do, because it's all expected to have things done in a certain way. So you've sort of got to simulate those things with basic software if you want it to work with a lightweight setup.
But I guess you can basically do everything that you'd want to do from a Go XLR then. It's just, you don't have... Well, the Go XLR has... A lot of people talk about them. It has the motorized sliders, like... Yeah,
that's one of the things I wish I could find. I believe there are MIDI pads that have motorized sliders, but at that point, you might as well buy a full mixing desk.
Right.
It can get quite expensive looking at the audio hardware when you go that high. And it's not a big deal not having sliders. It's just, you just got to make sure that everything's set. To be honest, an even bigger issue is the fact that because there's no motorized sliders, when you start the system up, all the sliders don't go to their current position. So you've got to like reset them all, make sure they're all in the right spots.
Right.
Before you do anything.
Mm. It's not a big deal. Like, as long as you just
Yeah, no.
give yourself a bit of time to set stuff up, then you're basically good.
Mm.
And
It's
maybe I'll try it out. I don't know.
mm.
I say this now, and I'm probably going to be like, nah, that's too hard.
Yeah, it's really a thing you've got to push yourself to do in some ways. I realize because I only did it because I was fed up with this little thing here.
Mm. Ah, yeah.
This thing is not as good as you'd expect. It's a
I don't expect it to be
PC37X
very good.
headset. It's better than most mics.
Right.
Like I would recommend it for someone who's not doing streaming and just wants to do a video call from now on because it's relatively clean,
Mhm.
but at the same time it's not.
Yeah.
Like so I was having a lot of trouble with static and stuff like that. And because I don't actually use any AI noise removal on my setup, because with this mic I don't really need to. The noise floor is honestly so low, especially when you've got a noise gate on it.
Yeah.
That it doesn't really matter. It sounds good without it. And honestly, I swear I notice a little bit of distortion when you enable it anyway. It's very minimal, but it's there, and it's like I can sort of hear that. That's not natural sounding.
Right.
I don't know.
Maybe I do use AI noise suppression, and I've had some people complain about like oddities in my voice. That could very possibly be what it is. Like there might be some people that there's some people that probably have like really expensive setups and are really sensitive to, hi-fi nonsense. I should probably just disable it for a bit and just see sort of what reaction I get from that, and just see if, it does anything better. Because I have a noise gate on as well. So I don't even need it. I don't know.
Well, yeah, the Worman noise suppressor comes with a basic noise gate anyway. Usually, especially with the Patch Bay plugins that I use, the one that's specifically for that sort of stuff, actually has, I think it's called voice activation detection,
right?
Which is very similar to the way Discord does things, with like with a slider to detect exactly how your noise how high your noise floor is and all that sort of stuff. Actually, on Discord, I actually have to turn that right down because I've got one already on there, and everything I've set everything up so everything goes through that system.
Right. Yeah, I've had issues with the Discord noise suppression. I don't know if there's so you can completely disable that then.
You can't really disable certain parts of it. You've just got to turn it right down.
Right. Because sorry.
So if you've got the noise suppression bar, right?
Yeah.
And you got the slider on there. You just turn that almost to 0. Don't turn it on 0, otherwise it'll think you're constantly talking. But the moment you turn it slightly off 0, everything works fine, and it's like, this is crisp.
Because last episode I recorded, the guy I had on, he was going to do some guitar stuff, and Discord was not happy about guitar. It was like, hey, this chord's fine, this chord we're going to completely cut out all the noise.
Yeah, that's generally to be expected with something like Discord that's just not really designed for that sort of thing.
Yeah, of course. Like, I wasn't expecting it to be crisp. I just expected it to, like, somewhat work. We couldn't really get anywhere with it.
Nah.
But, speaking of things that somewhat work, you mentioned you've got a VR headset before we started.
Yes, I've got a Vive. It's sitting down right there. I'm not sure if you can see it. It's hanging off the steering wheel there. That's something I bought from Cashies a little while back.
Did you pay for it?
I think I paid like it was a very similar price to an Oculus Quest. Like $600, $700, $800 or something like that. It was a relatively good price. I didn't want to buy a Quest because I'm like, I don't want to deal with Facebook stuff.
Yeah, fair enough.
I rarely use that sort of stuff, so so I went, all right, let's see what we've got, what options you've got for Linux and that sort of stuff. 2 options, aside from the Quest, is the Valve Index and the original HTC Vive. They're the ones that work the best.
Right.
So I'm like, well, I'm never going to be able to afford a Valve Index without first making sure I've got a job and stuff like that. So I'll just dish out and see what secondhand Vives there are.
Mm-hmm.
So I grabbed that thing, and it works honestly pretty well, all things considered. Software is it's not great
Not great,
though.
okay.
Like Steam VR has its problems even in Windows.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's honestly pretty nuts with the way that everything's set up. If you look at the Steam VR for Linux GitHub page,
Mm-hmm.
right, you'll find that it has like 300 open issues at any one time. Things do get fixed on there, and you occasionally see one get marked as closed.
Yeah.
But it's like the vast majority have been up there for a good amount of time, and it's. I understand that Valve probably aren't working on this as much as like the Steam Deck or something like that, because that's where the money is. But it's sort of it needs, like, Valve side of things honestly needs a bit of help, especially on the Linux thing, because Linux only exacerbates the issues that are there on Windows at this point.
I'm looking at it right now. There are issues here open from 2018.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It needs a bit more attention than it's currently getting, I think, if we want to make it truly good.
So, in the state that it's currently in, what is the experience like?
It's smooth enough.
Mhm.
There's a lot of features that I'd say are missing.
Mhm.
Like, just starting up Steam VR and running it, it works.
Right.
Like, provided you are running the Steam VR beta. Don't run the Steam VR beta for Linux, just run Steam VR beta itself. Because Steam VR beta for Linux is such an old version at this point that it's not even a good thing. So you've got to run the beta.
Mm-hmm.
The beta is more stable than the stable release.
Okay.
Once you run that, there are a few buttons
Mhm.
in the interface that do absolutely nothing because their functionality isn't there on Linux.
Right.
Like anything that concerns virtual desktop won't work.
Of course, yeah.
For obvious reasons.
Mhm.
And various other situations won't work either. I'm trying to remember what they are, but they come as thing, and then you've got AMD versus Nvidia.
You run a 2070?
Yes, it's a 2070.
Yeah.
I wish I could afford a new graphics card at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
It will change eventually, and I will probably try and go for like a 6900 XT or like a thing when I get the money to do so, but it's just a matter of getting the money first.
Mm-hmm. So, what games do you play with VR?
Mainly Beat Saber, I'll be honest.
Fair enough.
I have jumped into Minecraft for VR with VR, like using the Minecraft XR mod. So there's two Minecraft VR mods. There's Vivecraft, which is the original, and then there's Minecraft XR, which uses the new OpenXR platform instead of the thing. I did come across a weird issue when trying to run that initially. It doesn't work at all with Steam VR.
Okay.
Like, you can get it running, but you can't use Steam VR. You have to use Monado, which I found out in general is way more stable than Steam VR for Linux is. But it only supports the XR platform unless you try and use something like Open Composite. Open Composite's there for like it has the ability to translate OpenVR to OpenXR. But it's not perfect. There's a bunch of auto-generated stubs there that need to be filled in, I think.
It's always good to see.
And with the way Monado is set up, it's sort of like, so you've got different drivers for different headsets.
Right.
It has a built-in Vive driver, but it doesn't use that one. It uses the libservive driver.
Right.
Now, the libservive driver handles all communication with a headset directly. And Monado just tells it to do certain things. I have noticed one weird thing with two different USB communications platforms that has resulted in some weirdness in terms of releasing the headset so you can switch back to Steam VR when you need to. And there's one issue I really wish wasn't set up like it was, and that's the calibration system. So Steam VR has a really straightforward calibration system. If anything was the best part of Steam VR, it would be that part.
Yeah, I've used it a little bit in my Final Year Uni project. Getting everything working, it was good. Yeah.
It's like put your headset on put your head controls on the floor. That's where the floor is.
Yep.
Trace around the room. It's good. It's set. It works. With libsurvive, it tries to automate that process. So what it does is every single time you stop moving your any tracked object, it will record that position and add that to the calibration.
Right.
The problem is unless you have the calibration setup started and you do this a little bit before you start playing the games, because games generally aren't designed to go, is there a new calibration?
Right.
No, there's not. Or yes, there is. No, they don't do that. They go, that's the calibration. Okay, I'll use that calibration. So they don't update calibration with the Monado driver. So if you're playing the game,
aren't moving.
If you're playing the game, it won't update the calibration. So the first time I played Minecraft XR, because I initially started with the controllers on my desk, that's where the floor was.
Right.
So I was like standing here. I'm like, why am I 3 meters tall?
Yep.
And then I realized if I duck down, I can look underneath the blocks, and I'm suddenly looking through the world. It's like, oh, I have X-ray. Cool. But this isn't great. Eventually, I realized that you had to, because I didn't realize that was how you calibrated things. I just assumed it would just work.
Yeah.
But no, eventually I did move it around, put it in certain positions, make sure that everything was working and it works. There's one other issue that I don't like that I wish it would have, and that is an ability to specify where the front is. So on Steam VR, right, menus will always put themselves in a specific orientation.
Right.
Right? So for me, it's this way.
Right.
And that makes it so that, like, in a space like this, which is honestly way too small, I have a tendency to hit the desk quite a lot when I'm playing it. It makes it possible for me to play something like Beat Saber.
Right.
The one time I used Open Composite, it automatically put the front here, because that's where my lighthouse is.
Okay.
Which made it impossible for me to play because I suddenly had to walk where the desk was to be in the center of the area. So it's like, yeah, I'm gonna have to just use Steam VR straight up instead of forcing it onto Open Composite and stuff like that. And then there's the fact that Proton games on Steam VR by default will use Steam VR regardless of whether you have another platform running.
Right.
So you have to go in there and set like 3 or 4 launch options just to make it use something else. But it's with XR and VR, there's a couple of files in your dot files there that specify what platform you're using, and it totally ignores that. You have to specify that stuff manually if you want to change it for a Proton-based game. I understand Valve doing that because, you know, they generally expected you'd use Steam VR, but overall, apart from those weird issues with calibration and front-facing and all that, Monado is 10 times more stable than Steam VR. So it's a mixed bag anyway you look at it, and I generally don't recommend people try it unless they're willing to jump through some hoops. And
I have heard questionable things about VR on Linux, so I'm not too surprised that it's kind of messy. Is the Vive your first VR experience, or have you used an earlier headset?
It's my first major one, I haven't owned a headset apart from this one. This is the first headset I've ever owned.
Yeah.
I have gone over a few family members' houses and friends' houses. I think one of my friends, he owns a an old Oculus CV1.
Ah, nice.
And I think I just remember playing Dirt Rally on that one a little bit, and that's really all I played with that one. That was pretty entertaining. That was one thing that made me want to get VR thing. And then I went and my cousin has PlayStation VR. And I tried a few different experiences for that. And that was honestly pretty reasonable, especially considering the area they had was huge. So but there were some very basic experiences. Like I think I played the Iron Man game in VR.
Oh right, yeah, of course, it's an Iron Man game
on PlayStation VR. That was not a fun experience. But the shark experience that I had there, that was pretty entertaining. It was, jump scares and all that sort of stuff. But
my first VR experience was all the way back on Oculus DK2. So very early days. Screen door to all hell. It was awful to look at. And so this was at my high school. One of the IT guys had bought a headset for himself. And the demo he showed us, we did this standing up, which is a terrible idea. Don't do this. The demo he showed us was one of the roller coaster demos, which is not something you do standing up. So
that's an ease into it kind of thing at the very best.
Yeah. My next VR experience after that was, I think it was first gen Vive, so it was kind of a big upgrade for me. I thought it was great. I like VR. I don't have a headset right now. I probably have the space for it because, like, this, I've got this much room that way, and this goes back maybe like another meter or 2 meters.
The minimum amount of space you need is 2x1 meters.
Okay. Well, yeah, I definitely have enough space then.
Yeah, I've got like 2x1 if you count the desk in that.
Right. Okay. So you just ignore the desk.
So yeah, I just play games that it doesn't matter if you've got the desk there or not because the play space just works that way.
The other VR headset I've tried, I don't remember what it was called, but there are these like really cheap VR headsets that are sort of just made for nothing but like watching movies. Like
the Gear VR and the Google
cheaper than that. Like
stuff like that.
It was like a Philips VR headset or something.
Ooh.
The only reason I had that is because of my final year uni project, where it was a VR project. So they lent me a headset to use, and they lent me the cheapest thing they had. This thing barely tracked. So there were occasions where, because it was internal tracking, but there were occasions where it would stop the tracking. So I had it on my head and I would move, and the view I have didn't change. And I could use that thing for maybe, because I think it was like 30 FPS as well, or 30 hertz.
Ooh.
And I could use it for maybe 15, 20 minutes before I felt like I was going to throw up.
Yeah, even with me playing games that are like, you do like swinging across ropes and all sorts of stuff like that, I have to take the headset off a good 15 minutes. Because I haven't quite done it enough to get my sea legs in that setup.
Yeah.
Even though I've owned the headset for quite a while, I actually really need to recalibrate at the moment because I recently remounted this lighthouse because it was just wedged up by the blind, because there's a blind right behind my desktop that I don't pull up at all ever, and I just wedged it in between the blinds so it was sat there. But I had to come up with a new solution because it fell down at one point. I'm like, ooh, that was dangerous.
Yeah, I don't exactly want to drop a HTC Vive lighthouse. Even
especially
one you got from cashews.
First generation. It's like a little bit harder to get that sort of stuff. I mean, you can still get it, but
yeah.
I'd rather not break it and have to spend the money to buy a new one.
Yeah, absolutely. At some point, I'll I'll get VR stuff. But
Hmm.
there's so many games out there that I still haven't played that are just sitting on my list of things that I need to do. Adding more game, I don't need to add more games to that. I do that enough anyway.
Yeah, everyone does that. I'm pretty sure I've got a huge list of games that I probably should be playing.
Well, just like I don't know if you can see them back here, but I've got a big collection of PS4 games over there, and
Oh yeah.
just that is enough. And then I've got my Steam library that I haven't played, and then occasionally someone will mention a game on the stream, like, "Hey, you should play this," and I'm like, "Okay, yeah, maybe I should play that." And then
Add
I
that
get a
to
bunch
the
more
list
games.
and crap. Now there's another one.
Mm.
I get that.
Mm-hmm. So besides Minecraft, which I know you play a lot on stream, what games do you find yourself getting into?
I do get into a lot more of the building style games, I will
Mhm.
admit. Like Space Engineers is one that I got into recently and learned that you cannot, under any circumstances, start a dedicated server under Linux. That does not work
Mhm.
unless you want the shittest performance in the world. But
Mhm.
single player works fine, so. And then there's what else is there? I do have on my list of games to play, Bennett Foddy's thing there. I want to give that one a shot. Even though I know for a fact that I will probably end up rage quitting. What else is there I want to play? Like I said, I got all the VR games and stuff like that. That's standard. There's a huge list and a bunch of ones that I really do want to play. It's just unless they come to mind at the moment that I want to play them, I'm not going to end up playing them.
Right. Just too much other stuff you need to be doing. Just other games that are available to play. It's like, especially if you get into something like Minecraft. Like, yeah, you could just keep playing that and do nothing else.
Yes, it's very easy to just go, screw it, I'm just going to play Minecraft. Which happens probably 80% of the time for me, which is why I've become basically a Minecraft streamer at this point. It's like, help, I'm trapped in a Minecraft streaming factory or something like that. It's just
I've had a couple of people tell me I should get back into Minecraft because as I said, I've checked out the updates every so often. It seems like there's a lot more, just even in the vanilla game, a lot more stuff to do with it. Because I enjoy the building aspect. It's just that's not enough by itself to keep me entertained.
yeah, I probably wouldn't have stayed on Minecraft if I didn't have a server that I would join regularly.
Right.
And stuff like that. Like I got a bunch of streamer friends and stuff like that, and we all join a server, and it's a lot of fun. Like mess around, It's always fun trying to find those bloody screeching blocks. I can't even remember the name of them. They are the ones that in the deep dark you get from the deep dark.
I
They make
don't
really
know what
loud
you're
noises.
saying right now.
But yeah, people would hide those all around my base, and I'd log in and go, "What the shit's that noise?" Especially because I haven't bothered going down to the deep dark where the warden is and all that sort of stuff to
Right. Okay, that's
grab all
right.
that sort of stuff. So when I first heard them, I'm like, I've never heard this noise before. What is this? And it was a whole thing. It was like, oh my gosh! And I went digging and went, what the? Oh, that's that new block. That was my first experience with one of the new blocks. Getting
what a great
pranked.
experience. So I had an account very early on. I gave that account to my sister, but maybe I can. I don't think she plays on it anymore. Maybe I can just take it back from her. That's an option. It's still attached to my email account.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you want, you can. I don't know.
I said that too much other stuff to be doing.
Yeah,
like way too much other stuff.
It's a very much a, do I want to get into it? And if I get into it, will I end up just doing nothing but that?
Yeah, that's
am
the
I
problem.
willing to do nothing but that?
I don't know. I've gotten pretty good with sort of dealing with my time. There was a time when I was a lot younger where all of my free time was gonna be eaten up by video games or eaten up by anime. But I feel like as I've gotten a bit older, I've gotten somewhat better at not great. There's still a lot of times I'm just watching stuff on YouTube for no reason, but I've gotten better at sort of putting my time to things that are somewhat useful. Whether that's learning guitar that I'm doing now, whether it's learning some Japanese, whether it's working on videos, things like that. You know, as a kid, I played RuneScape for 7 years. So
Wow.
yeah, not a great use of my time, but it did teach me economics. Like that, the reason I don't like spending money now is because I didn't like spending money in RuneScape.
I like spending money when I've got it.
Yeah, that's always the you know, the biggest how would you say it, issue, biggest blocker.
I'm very hesitant to get a credit card because I just know I'm gonna shaft myself with that if I do. It's like, yeah, nah, I should stay right away from that.
I think it depends on like how, because I use a credit card basically as a debit card, and then I just pay stuff off pretty much straight away. But yeah, if you're worried about just burning through money, that's probably something that's worth avoiding, at least temporarily.
I'd never like the idea of spending money I don't have.
Right,
It's a bit like, nah, not for me.
Well, yeah,
I'd rather not.
That's why I use it as like a debit card. I only spend what I have with it, and then it's not really, you know, it's not really an issue then.
Yeah.
Long as you remember to pay the bill.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this is one of the reasons why I have all this stuff, was because at the time I could really only afford to spend $100 or $200 at a time. So it's like, okay, I need a good microphone. What do I get? The AT2020 is like $120. Perfect. All right, I need something to. I bought that mic. I think I bought the mic first, but I didn't have an interface. I didn't have anything like that to run it. So I kept it in a box under my bed until I could afford an interface, and then I kept that, and then I set that up, and then I'm like, oh, I need a way to control things. All right, let's find something cheap. Oh, look, this $50 secondhand MIDI mixer. That'll work. Bought that from Cashies.
After hours upon hours of configuring stuff to actually make it work the way you want it to work.
Well, my first setup, it was a very iterative experience. I started off with a basic setup, you know, basic noise suppression and whatever else.
Yeah.
And then the more I learned, the more I added to it over time. So it was like half an hour here, half an hour there, just, you know, add something to it and go, I want a reverb button because it's always fun to make my voice echo. And then
reverb is funny. Reverb is always funny.
Yeah. Indeed.
I have I have like a hardware effects here as well. I don't know. Wait, give me one second. I'm gonna disable. We disable the filter in OBS. There we go. Okay, there we go. Now the noise suppression isn't gonna break it. What number is it on? 1? Yeah, 1. Here we go. And then I think it should be reverb. Is it? Yes.
Damn, that was a lot. I need to make mine more. There we go. Now it's more. And it just goes on forever.
I can turn it up. I've got lots of reverb settings on here. I've got lots of settings on here. I got the wait, where's the fun one?
I have a really fun one, but it only works on stereo signals, so I can't really show it to you on Discord.
How does this sound?
Oh, wow, that's pretty warpy. I like that one.
The effects I have on here are like, they're made to be guitar effects and like instrument effects.
That's what most of them are. Most of the ones I use are pretty similar to that, to be honest. A vast majority of the LV2 plugins are like that. I mean, and then you've got the stereo.
Pitch change.
Yeah. I'd show you the voice modulation, only Discord doesn't do stereo audio, so you won't hear anything change.
Ah, right. Wait. Go this side?
Go this side. I don't remember which side's
which side's high and which side's low.
Yeah.
I just have to deal with I always just ask people whenever I try to use it, like which am I like I think high is like max is high pitched, min is low pitched, but I'm not certain.
Yeah, max is high pitch for me. I don't know if it's the same for you. It could be different for different
Was
setups.
it? Wait, look 1 second.
Is this high pitch?
That is higher pitch than your standard voice. So.
Okay, yes, so max is high pitched then. Okay.
Yeah.
Audio's fun.
Yeah, indeed.
Do you have your license?
My driver's license?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. It is sitting here, right? In my
You don't fucking
wallet.
show your driver's license.
Yeah, I was about to get it out. Like, wait, what am I doing?
No, the reason I brought it up.
Next minute, I'm covering the identity side of things, so you can see the picture and see how stoned I look. Because every single photo I ever take for ID makes me look stoned. I don't know why.
My original license, I had long hair, so it went down like halfway down my back. So that was fun. But the reason I brought that up is a funny thing I saw yesterday. So, you know, at a T-junction, where there'll be like a left turn and a right turn. And there's usually two in this case, it was 2 lanes. So I was coming back to my place, and I saw this crash happen. Now, I say crash with like, you know, a big asterisk there. Because they were going maybe 5 k's an hour. So one person was stopped on like the left side, and then this dude in a ute came over and like clipped with the door and tore that car's like front bumper off at like 5 k's an hour. And he got out of the car. It's like, how did that happen? I don't understand. It's like, what are you doing? Like, how could you, like, the car was stopped there. Like, why did you try to pull into that lane? What are you doing?
He probably didn't have very good, like, awareness of his own surroundings by the sound of it. It's just a bit like, yes.
But, like, when he checked, like, where it hit on his car, he was, like, looking towards, like, the back where the tray was. It's like, mate, your door has a giant dent in it. Like, why are you looking there? Look at the big hole. Some people are fucking stupid.
Even I can be stupid sometimes. I've had a point where I accidentally reversed into a tree. That was a bit unfortunate.
How did you manage that one?
I was reversing out of the driveway and just happened to be at the exact right angle for the tree to be right behind me, and I pedaled it too hard a little bit and bonk. Oops. Dad was not very happy about that. The wagon's now got a huge dent, and he did not like that.
I've not had a crash myself, but I still have damage on my car. I still don't know how it happened, but my mirror now is held on with duct tape.
Ah, yes.
So I came out to I think someone might have walked past it and like bashed it or something, because I came out to my car and it was just hanging there by like the wire inside of it to like control it. So yeah, that's fun. It's always fun to deal with nonsense like that.
I think the worst thing that I have ever done in a actually one of the worst things I've ever done driving was back when I owned my little tiny blue Festiva. It's not a Fiesta, but it was a little manual 1.3 liter Festiva with like it. And I remember driving down the hill near my house a little bit too fast because it's a really windy hill and you know really fun. And I may have taken a corner a little bit too fast, popped both front tires, bent one of the steel rims, and nearly destroyed a donation bin.
Just to top it off.
That was not my proudest moment there.
I hope not.
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah. And the worst part about it was there was a bunch of old people up the street who were watching the whole thing. And it was like, oh, God, because now they're watching me limp the car into the car park of the shopping centre nearby. It's like, like doing the drive of shame, limping the car down the... down the driveway. It's like,
Oh,
this is so
no.
bad. Oh, what did I do that for?
I'm surprised my car's survived as long as it has, because everyone who gets in my car is like, Brody, you're such a terrible driver. Like, because I take roundabouts as fast as my car will let me take them.
It's fun. No, you
fine.
can't deny speed is fun.
Speed is fun. Yeah, speed is fun. Just take that completely out of context.
Gotta go faster, take the race line.
Exactly.
If you've ever listened to that song, they're words to live by.
What is that song?
It's Mighty Car Mod's song DJ Rodnock. I think they put under the pseudonym of that. It's like Eurobeat. Although some people debate that one, although I don't know why they debate it. But yeah, it's pretty entertaining.
At some point, I'm supposed to be getting rid of the current car I've got. So right now I'm driving a 2001 Barina, a hatchback Barina.
Lovely. I mean, could be worse. At least it's not a Holden Cruise.
But I'm getting rid of it for a 2013 Impreza.
Ooh.
It's not it's not like, you know, the nice sporty Imprezas.
It's not
like
the WRX.
No, that would be fun. No, it's one of the like you know, take the kids to school Imprezas.
Yeah.
Which, you know, it's still going to be nice on the car I've got right now, because it doesn't drive too well. It's got a flat spot, so sometimes it doesn't go forward, which is a problem, especially you know, on highways and stuff.
At least you won't have to worry anywhere near as much about head gasket failure because it's not got a turbo in it.
Yeah, but
that being said, it will probably still happen eventually.
But yeah, turbos are fun.
The head gasket is a big thing in those cars. What I've heard.
I know literally nothing about cars. My car knowledge is basically to the extent of like I can change my headlights. Which, you know, better than nothing.
My uncle's a mechanic, so there's a bit there. I mess around with cars, and like I said, I watch Mighty Car Mods on YouTube sometimes. Not as much as I used to, though. I'll admit, I've kind of gone away from that scene. But I've always wanted to get like an MX-5 or like a relatively small sporty car, just because. You know, I like taking corners, and what better car to take corners in?
That reminds me of my sister's first car. She's admitted this after the fact that the reason she bought this car is there was some boys around her that she wanted to impress. So her first car was this bright red MX-5, and it was the biggest disaster that you've ever seen.
Was it one of the pop-up headlights models?
I believe it was.
Yes, she chose right.
But like a month after she got it, the gearbox shot itself.
It's probably because she bought it from some dude who absolutely ragged on it on the track or something like that. Because those things are track ponies. You've got to be willing to understand that something's gonna break on it eventually when you get something like that. The worst part is the first generation, which is the one with the pop-up headlights, has gotten exponentially more expensive. Like, I remember back when I first thought of getting one, they were around about $2,000 to $3,000.
Yeah.
Now, you can't find one under $10,000. It's like, nope. You got to be willing to pay for it now. Because so many people have just destroyed them.
Well, that reminds me of all of the fucking Holden prices that went up after the factory shut down. Like, I know people that have these, like, shit box, like, you know, 2006 Commodores, and it's like, this car should be worth, like, $1,000, and it's, like, $10,000. This is a piece of junk. You've thrashed it to all hell, but it's now an antique, and it's now, like, a rare car.
Like a VX, VY, or VT model with a freaking 3800 and L27, whatever it is. Absolutely no power, but at least the engine's gonna last forever.
Well, depending on you know, who's driving it.
Well, yeah. The way I drive, probably not. My first car was a Commodore, was an old 1992 Commodore.
Mhm.
That was a fun boat. That thing had more body roll than like, I don't know, a lot of
Oh,
cars.
it was that one. Yeah,
It's just
okay.
like old school. I remember I stuck some big like 17-inch mag wheels on it, like from a newer Commodore,
Mhm.
and it looks so stupid. I wish I could have like. I got the mag wheels. A friend of mine gave them to me. I'm just like, oh, I'll stick those on. Why not? They're better than the hubcaps that I've currently got.
Mhm.
So I put that on there. Put some cheap ass tires on it because they were worn to the literal cords.
Mhm. Mhm.
I drove that thing around. That was a pig. It was an absolute pig. The only thing that was good about it was the aftermarket stereo.
Right.
Because I stuck a subwoofer in it, and yeah, it was just, yeah, let's go for it. Let's just stick a sub in it.
Yeah, half those cars, like, at this point, well, before the factory shut down, now they're fucking relics. When the factory was open, most of the time, the fucking stereos cost more than the car.
Yeah. Although no one wants to go for the stock stereos in those things. It's
You know-
all aftermarket.
Absolutely. No, like, I knew someone who, they didn't have a boot anymore. The boot was the boot was all stereo.
Oh wow, gone full show pony.
Yep. It
That's-
was fucking loud, but it was fun.
I remember a few years back, I went to the what was it, the Adelaide Auto Show, and mate, it was like walking back to the 2000s. There was a freaking van in there with a stripper pole in it, and everything. It was like, holy shit, what is this?
Oh,
Did I step back in time? All like old like JDM like shit boxes with like gaudy ass paint jobs, and it's like walking into the booth at into the show car booth at SEMA or something like that. It's just like, I didn't know this was a thing. Still,
I'm not into cars myself, but I can definitely appreciate like some of the stuff that people have done to their cars. Like absolutely, there's something impressive even knowing nothing about what's going on.
Yeah. Even for the show ponies, you got to appreciate the dedication. That stuff is like, I would never do that to a car I own, but props to you for going with your heart and putting something like that on. You know, you got all the sex spec show cars and all the like, you know, neons and the other crap like that you see. It's just like, not my style, but props to you for going for it.
Absolutely.
It's just like, and then you see the track cars and all that sort of stuff with all the big ass turbos and the things like that, and you go, I just want to go in and ride shotgun and that sort of thing, just to feel my head get crushed against the back of the seat.
One of my I think it was my one of my stepbrothers, has a burnout car and goes to burnout comps. And if anyone listening hasn't been to a burnout comp, go to one. They are fun. They're a lot of fun.
Very old-fashioned values, but yeah, very fun.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going to like, although I've heard they've recently been cracking down on a lot of the stuff that used to happen at like summer nats and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Like you used to see videos of summer nats, and I think they had it was a big thing. They had a thing where it was skids or tits or something like that, where you either get your girlfriend to flash them or you do a massive skid. And it's like, oh god, it's so bad. But yeah, I see. It's just a bunch of dudes doing dude stuff.
Yeah.
And being really kind of not caring about things.
Not caring.
In a way.
Look, if you're fucking burning through hundreds of dollars of tires, you don't give a shit about anything.
Yeah, it's true. It's the only thing more bogan-fest than something like Summon Nats would be something like a Ute Muster or something like that from like the Outback. Like you hear about that stuff all the time, and it's just the same. It's like, wow.
I don't know how long we were talking about car stuff, and I don't care about car stuff, but somehow it happened.
It's entertaining to talk to sometimes.
Yeah. Let's you know what? Just because I want to talk about this existing, I mentioned the Master Chief thing to you before we started. I know there's a lot of people who may not have seen this yet. I'll send you the article.
Okay.
343 refuses to reveal what Master Chief's suit does with all the cum.
What the hell? No.
But this is you might be curious about why they were talking about Master Chief's cum. We can confirm that Master Chief's suit jacks him off. That much is indeed canon. But we unfortunately are not ready at this time to reveal what the suit does with the cum, explained 343 Industries founder Bonnie Ross.
What the hell?
You know, a lot of people aren't happy about the state that Halo Infinite's in, so how do you get people to forget about that?
Talk about cum.
Talk about cum. Stuff like this doesn't matter at all to like the general game itself, but you know, a lot of people enjoy stupid tidbits like this. Like someone told me what in my stream earlier what Mickey Mouse's actual name is. Mickey Mouse's legal name. Where was
what's
it?
this quote? Hold on. He left a quote. There's a quote in here. How the suit maintains a cum, what it does with the cum after receiving it from John 117, and what temperature the suit needs to be to maintain the cum at. In fact, I feel like I've already said too much. I don't want to give the impression that the suit keeps the cum at all.
He's just constantly... No,
It just sort of leaks out of the pant leg or something like that. Out of the bottom of the shoes.
I just got an idea. Obviously, having a metal suit that is like you got to make sure it's lubricated, otherwise it's gonna have issue moving around.
I was thinking maybe they weren't. Maybe they're using. Maybe it keeps the cum, stores it for a clone so that they can clone Master Chief when he dies or something like that. And that's how they get more of those guys.
Someone was, I think someone in the comments was saying it powers the suit.
How is the suit?
Oh, this is so stupid.
Stinky.
Also, the Mickey Mouse thing. Mickey Mouse's full legal name is Michael Theodore Mouse.
That's an interesting tidbit.
But yeah, things like this don't matter at all to the game. But it's... I think Hex DSL was the one who mentioned this to me. Especially in sci-fi series, you'll see just random things thrown in. So in the books that he's writing, he mentioned that in one of the universes created, golf doesn't exist. It doesn't matter at all to the series in like a grand scheme of things, but you just throw something out there, and then people will latch onto that as if it matters to some like greater extent, but the only purpose it's here is to sort of, I don't know, be this weird, interesting thing that someone out there is possibly gonna care about.
Yeah, it's like the story of how golf was invented in the Lord of the Rings or something like that. You've heard, I think it was like they were in a battle or something like that, and one hobbit knocked off the head of an enemy, and it went down a wombat hole or like a foxhole or something like that. And as a result, they won the battle and invented golf at the same time.
How a hobbit invented the game of golf in the Lord of the Rings? What the?
Yeah, It's just an interesting. That was actually mentioned in the book. I got the book up there in my bookshelf.
I've never actually read or watched Lord of the Rings.
Oh, what?
Actually, this is gonna make it even worse. The only part of the Lord of the Rings I've watched is The Hobbit.
Oh my gosh, that's wow. I've never thought I'd hear the day where someone's only watched The Hobbit.
Well, it's the same thing with Star Wars, actually. So I've never seen.
You've seen the prequels and not the sequels?
No,
Or you've seen the
even
new
worse.
ones and not
No,
No?
no. I don't know what the movie was called. There was a side movie that didn't even matter. Ah, yeah. The only is this one. Yeah, this is the only Star Wars movie I've seen.
Oh no.
Caravan of Courage and Ewok Adventure.
It's like a Hamish and Andy skit or something like that.
It doesn't matter at all, like even remotely, but somehow that's the only one that I've seen.
Have you at least seen like the Star Wars robot chicken shorts or something like that?
Okay,
on
I've
YouTube?
seen some of the Clone Wars animated series, so there is
Okay, that works.
And my knowledge, my knowledge of the mainline Star Wars is entirely from Lego Star Wars.
Oh my. You disappoint me. My cousin's obsessed with Lego Star Wars. He gets every single Lego Star Wars game.
What even is the last time I saw anything about the Lego games, there was like some Marvel games.
Oh, I don't remember. There's all sorts of
List
different
of
things.
Lego video games.
It's massive, I'm pretty sure.
The most recent one was Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. So
A lot of them sound like they might be rehashes of old Lego Star Wars games.
yeah.
That one almost sounds like it might be one of those HD remakes or something like that.
Skywalker.
But I remember going over my cousin's house multiple times, and he would be sitting there playing Lego Star Wars on the GBA. Just yep.
I think the last time I played a Lego game, it was Lego Star Wars. I think it was back on the PS2. So I played the original Lego Star Wars games.
I still have my PS2 set up sitting over
Do
there.
you?
Yeah, it is. It's permanently set up. Still works.
I got rid of my. There was a Lego Incredibles game. What the fuck?
That sounds pretty incredible.
It does sound pretty incredible. I sadly got rid of all of my old consoles. I wish I'd kept them. Well, not got rid of necessarily. Like my PS3 I gave to my sister, and she got rid of it. The PS2 I got rid of. I think I might have been one of those people who traded my PS2 into EB Games when I bought a PS3.
Ooh, I could have ended up with yours then.
Very. Is it a
because mine was
slim?
pre-owned from EB Games. No, it's not. It's a fat.
Ah.
I think I prefer the fats anyway. I want to get one of those hard drive cards, like the network cards for the fat.
Yeah.
So I can plug a hard drive into it, like a SATA hard drive into it, and then because I got a bunch of spare SATA hard drives on my bookshelf just down behind me. They're all like 1 terabyte Western Digital caviar greens.
Something about that makes me believe it's not going to work on your PS2.
Well, you could get SATA converters for it and stuff like that. So they're standard. They're like, I think they might be a proprietary connector, but it's technically the IDE protocol.
Right, but
I'm not 100% certain.
I don't know what it would do with that much storage.
And there are aftermarket systems to set things up. But the only reason I want to do that is to set up the jailbreak for the PS2. Just so I can mess with it. Because they have an absolute lot of interesting stuff for that.
Oh yeah, well the PS2's... When did the PS2 actually come out?
It came out years ago. I got it well
2000.
after it was over. Like, I think the PS3 was out when I first got my PS2.
Yeah. Well, yeah, after all of this time, there's going to be a lot of... Sorry?
which I think is one of the reasons why it was pre-owned.
Mm-mm.
It was on the tail end of EB Games still stocking it.
Well, yeah, it was still being produced until 2013.
Wow.
Like 6 years after
Damn.
the PS3 came out.
Just goes to show you how good it was.
Mm-mm. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at a lot of homebrew stuff for the PS2.
Yeah. Emulators and all sorts of crazy stuff.
But I
remember
would have been
watching old
basically the
videos
same
on how to
then.
do it.
I think I got my PS2. I think it was like I was like 7 or so, so it would have been around like 2005 or so. So maybe like a year or so before the PS3 came out, and then I got my PS3 towards the end of the towards the end of that life cycle, towards when the PS4 was coming out, and I'm probably gonna buy a PS5, like when the next generation's been announced.
It's like living in r/late stage capitalism where everything's like late.
Well, the best part about doing it is, when you buy a console early, a lot of the time you're sort of waiting for games to play.
Yeah.
But you buy it at the end, like, everything's here already. It might be harder to find some things, but
Yeah.
now with, online shopping, it's not a big deal.
Although if I want to find some games now for that sort of stuff.
Oh, well, yeah, if you want PS2
those
games
prices
now,
make me sweat.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm honestly more surprised at things that shouldn't be expensive. Like, I saw expensive Vita games. Like, there was, for a game that's not even popular, it was a copy of East Memories of Celceta for like $70 at a Cashies. Like, you can buy this game new on Steam for $10.
Yeah, I remember the other day I went to Cashies Modbury and just looked around. Like, the
Yeah,
Cashies at
store's
Modbury,
great.
that one's got like the freaking arcade machine at the front and
Yeah,
they have, at the current moment, they have an old, like, new in-box, unopened Sega Mega Drive for like $1,200. It's like, holy shit. Like, never been opened, you can just tell it's brand new. It's like, that's awesome. Too bad I've already got one of those.
Oh, you have a Mega Drive as well?
Well, it's technically my dad's, but yeah, there's a Mega Drive in a box outside.
What consoles, if you just categorize all the consoles you have, what do you have in your house right now?
It's a very eclectic mix of mostly older stuff. So there's a Mega Drive, there's a Super Nintendo, there's a Nintendo 64. Big Nintendo things, can you tell?
Yeah.
I've got, personally, I own a PlayStation 2. I have a Nintendo DS, although I need to replace it because the cartridge slot's bugged. And there's a Nintendo Wii in the lounge.
Nice.
And that's set up.
Do people actually still use it in there, or is it just sitting in there?
It's just sitting there. It doesn't get used very often. I think the last thing I did with it was secretly jailbreak it. Despite the fact that, like, I had to do it when no one was home, because if Dad saw me doing it, he'd be like, no, don't do that.
You will damage it.
Yeah, he's not into doing that sort of stuff at all. He's like, that's illegal. No, it's not illegal, because I'm not actually installing games to it. I just want to see what's in the homebrew menu.
I should. Sometimes I like to go do like a Cashies run just to go around between the stores to see what fun stuff there is. Modbury is actually Modbury and
I spent like 3 hours in that store.
Yeah, it's
just browsing.
You can spend a ton of time there. Fuck, I forgot what the other store that was really good was, because
the online store.
Sorry?
I mean, that's obviously the online store.
Oh yeah, obviously.
You can't be bothered going out. No.
There was it was a bit further. It's not No, definitely not Pros. Is it not Hampstead? Is it? No, it's not Hampstead Gardens. Fuck, which store was? There's one close to the city that's really, really good.
Which side of the city?
Was it? It's north side.
North side. Okay, so no, but they wouldn't be the one I'm thinking.
Wait, is it Hampstead Gardens I'm thinking of? No, maybe it's Hampstead Gardens? Actually, it might be Hampstead Gardens. Either way, both of them are great stores. Actually, I'll show you something fun I got from a Cashies once that I completely unexpectedly got from one.
It's always fun to see this.
Actually, wait. Just get some
That's
anime
pretty cool.
figures.
Nice,
Someone,
yeah.
someone had dumped off like 10 anime figures at that store, and I think a lot of them are still up. It was Modbury, yeah. A lot of them are still at Modbury.
Yeah, there's a massive collection of them now. Like,
And, like,
I think it's probably gotten bigger. There's not 10 there. There's like nearly 100 there, I think, at this point.
No
And
one
they're all
is buying
super
them.
cheap.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I think most of them are pop figures, which makes sense.
Well, no, I don't give a shit about the pop figures. Every one of the stores has a lot of pop figures.
Yeah, it's just cheap. Whatever, you can get them at any place you want. Just, you know, head down the plaza or head into the city or any EB games, Zing Pop Culture, and you found like 500 of them.
I totally get that, like, new in-box consoles can get expensive now, but, you know, it really bothers me when I see things that I know were super mass-produced, and it's like, hey, you want to pay $100 for a Mario game? Like, no! No, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, nah. It is a bit annoying. It's like, nah. It's like, oh, I have something here that I bought online a while ago. This thing was worth...
Well, your cable's a bit shorter than mine.
For this thing. I paid way too much for this. Get a load of this. Driver San Francisco, the PC edition. That was like $200. I paid way too much for that, and I've only played it once.
Wait, what? Firstly, why did you pay $200 for it?
I don't know. It was a spur-of-the-moment thing. I probably shouldn't have done it.
I see why you don't want a credit card.
Yes.
Oh my god. That
was something I never should have bought, but I'm in some ways glad I've got, because it's still worth a lot of money. And the only sad part is Ubisoft are being a pain because they released that notification regarding Driver San Francisco. I can't remember what it was. It was all the Assassin's Creed games, and there was something about Driver San Francisco thrown in there as well. Because I'm not sure if you remember watching the YouTube video about that game and how cool it was and stuff like that. That's what made me want to get it. Yeah. But Ubisoft, relatively recent, a few months back now, said something about shutting something about it down or removing it from the store or something like that. Or making it harder to download.
I'm guessing
I don't care. I own a physical copy.
I'm guessing the video you're talking about is the best game Ubisoft won't let you play.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, okay.
That's the one. That's the one there. You can buy it from you can still buy it for real cheap, like digital copies from like G2A and shit like that.
Of course, yeah.
But I don't really want to support those guys, so.
Yeah, I've had a couple of, sponsorship emails from some. G2A is like the cream of the crop of the questionable key resellers, but I've had some very clearly, hey, we've stolen some keys. Yeah. It's like some
does not seem safe.
Yeah, it's like some Chinese key reseller site. I'm like, no, I'm not touching this. Because it's one thing when you buy keys from a different region and then sell them in America. That's fine. You can argue about whether that's, morally okay, legally okay. I don't really mind that. The issue I have is when you get into the really sketchy sites, then you start getting into stolen gift cards, things like that.
Yeah, like credit card fraud and all that
sort of
stuff.
That stuff, yeah.
And you're taking a risk with buying anything from any of those sites, because if someone issues a chargeback, those keys could end up being revoked, and it's just like you've now lost out on the money and you've got no game to show for it.
Yeah.
It's you're better off pirating than using those sites.
Yeah, that's an argument I've actually made with emulation. I don't know how you feel about emulation, but for me, if the game is still in production, so it's a current generation game, let's say, I don't know, the newest Pokemon game, like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So a game like that, I don't think you should pirate it. I think if you're going to emulate it, and I think if you want to emulate it, that's fine. But when it's a current generation game in production, I think you should buy it. Like, if you can support the development, I think that's what you should do. But when something isn't in production, like, I went back and played Shin Megami Tensei 3 for the PS2. That game was not in production. And I could buy a secondhand copy, but I don't... Like, you're not supporting the development if you're buying that. All you're doing is supporting, like, the secondhand game market. That's where I stand with it. If emulation's fine, but I prefer to at least buy it if I can buy it. Like new game.
Yeah. If the price isn't way out of this world for what you're getting, and like if it's not like if you can't get it anymore or something like that, then maybe you might be a bit more justified in pirating, but otherwise, yeah, I think I agree with you there where support the developer unless there are obvious reasons not to support the developer or something like that.
Like, one thing I'm doing right now is I'm streaming through The World Ends With You. This is like the DS version of the game. Like, you can't buy new DS games. Like, that's just not a thing.
No.
So I don't see any moral issue with, emulating that.
Nah. And yeah, I mean, it's still a good thing to support the secondhand market. We're not saying don't do that.
No, yeah.
Like it's still a thing that can exist, and sometimes it is nice having physical copies and stuff like that.
Sure.
But at the same time, yeah,
I've never been a big focus on like playing old games on hardware. I know a lot of people they want to have the Mega Drive experience. They want to have an old TV. They want to have that physical Mega Drive there. I get that. It makes sense. But for me, I like to take that game and then see what you can get out of it. Because, like, you can emulate a DS game, for example, and then upscale it to 4K, and it looks really crisp. Because, especially, like, the pixel art games. Like, they look like a, modern indie game would.
Yeah, I still really like emulation, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I used to play emulators on school computers all the time way back then, running Puppy Linux and all that sort of stuff. So it's still a good thing to emulate and all that sort of stuff. Granted, I did own a copy of Super Mario 64, which is basically all I ever played back then. But because they don't sell it anymore, I probably would have pirated it. And to be honest, the version I have is technically the US version, and we don't run the US version here. So we got the PAL EU version, I think it is. EU or I don't know.
Yeah, whatever it is.
One of those versions. So am I technically in the wrong for that? Like playing a different region game? I don't know. It's
yeah, that's one of those areas that's always been kind of weird. Like, legally, technically, yes, but if let's say, for example, that you lived in the US and then you bought a I guess PS2. PS2 was region locked, yeah?
I think so.
Let's go PS1. I know PS1 definitely was, though, wasn't it?
They probably both were.
Yeah. Anyway, let's just say the PS2 is region locked. Let's say you bought a PS2 while you're in the US, and then you move to another region like Australia. If you then were to keep playing those US games, technically you're in the wrong region, but it's not, it's not a big deal.
But it's not illegal.
It's not illegal, no.
You technically bought it, and you technically have all the hardware to play it, and it works, and there's no legal problems with that one. I don't even think Nintendo could say anything about that. Well, or Sony, or
or whoever
you're talking about.
Or but even if you importing systems, you're still you're buying new, when it was new hardware. So you import a new PS2 from the US. You import Japanese consoles. This was a big one actually, because a lot of Japanese games back then didn't get translated. So you import a Japanese system and Japanese games. Technically, you're breaking that region restriction, but it's not a big deal. And then if you were to remove the region lock, you have a cracked PS2, you remove the region locking on that, you're sort of achieving the same goal, but you are technically breaking that like region locking.
Yeah. Breaking region locking is a weird world of legal loopholes and whatever else.
Well, yes, it's sort of the same mess you see nowadays with streaming, like Netflix, when you have like, you know, technically you don't have a license to watch I don't know, let's say Mr. Robot, for example. I don't think Mr. Robot is on Australian Netflix, but it is on, I think, US Netflix or something. And technically, you know, VPNing into that region and watching it like that is, you know, you're breaking the license, but it's not a big, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, region locking is just
a
pain in the butt. It is. It's dumb.
Yeah.
And I get why they did it, because different regions have different currencies and therefore pricing and demographics and all that are different. But at the same time, in a global economy like the one we have today, not looking at the direction it's going, of course, it's sort of like there's not really any necessity to do it. And you see it in some ways in handheld consoles. Because almost no handheld consoles have region locking. Like the DS never had it.
Did it?
No, it never had it. The Nintendo DS never had region locking. I'm not sure if the 3DS had it, but I know the original DS never had it. You can buy those games from anywhere and put them in any console and it will still work.
Yeah, so base DS wasn't, 3DS was.
Yeah, which means you could still play any base DS game in any 3DS. You just couldn't play any 3DS game in any 3DS. So
there was one legitimate reason for the region locking, and that was the difference between 50 hertz and 60 hertz regions.
Yeah, and no.
Well, I played one of the Sonic games on the PS2. And if you put it into the wrong, like, hertz mode, it would be in black and white.
Yeah. It was sort of, some consoles had the capability of doing both, others didn't. Especially newer consoles like Nintendo Wii and all that sort of stuff. Those ones,
once you get to that point,
always had the ability to do both. They just only stuck to one generically.
And nowadays, it's not really an issue anyway.
No, it's sort of a non-issue, especially what with 1080p and everything basically standardizing as a result of the global economy and all that sort of stuff. It's just it's big whatever, really.
Well,
and most TVs are capable of both anyway.
Yeah. Well, on that note, it's pretty much time to end off the show. We've been going for almost 2 hours now.
Yes.
Well, let the people know where they can find you.
I have a Twitter account, though I admittedly don't check it. I have a Discord
plan.
as well. You can get that through my Twitch account. There's a command you can use to let that pop up, or just go down the description there and click it. And they're the primary ways you can reach me. I don't think there are any other ways, so.
You got an Instagram listed here. I don't know if you actually use it.
Oh, yeah, there's an Instagram there too. I check that on occasion.
Yeah.
I really should upload more to it, but...
I think the last time I posted on my Instagram was maybe like a year ago.
Yeah.
Well, anything else you want to mention?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. As for me, my main channel is Brody Robertson. I do Linux videos 6 days a week there. A gaming channel is Brody Robertson Plays. I stream twice a week. I'm playing through Cult of the Lamb and The World Ends With You. And if you're listening to the audio version of this, the video version is available over on the YouTube at Tech Over Tea. And if you're watching the video version, the audio version is available basically anywhere you can find a podcast. There's an RSS feed, so, you know, go and have a listen to that if you want to go and do so. Ugh. It's only 4 p.m. and I feel very tired right now.
Yeah, I need another coffee.
Yeah, I've been sipping on a dare this entire time. So.
Oh, yeah. I had a coffee beforehand.
I'll give you the final word. What do you want to say?
The only thing, for some reason, the word penis just popped into my head.
Sure. Okay. Penis.
I don't know why. Just penis. I don't
Penis game. Best game.
know. Oh my gosh.
Well, I'll catch you guys later.